Guys, welcome back. How are you doing? Sdho, Sound Design Hangout. And we've got some Ableton to do. I don't know if you can hear that, but this little doggy is just got fed his kibbies, and now he's humping his little cat bed or whatever. Anyways, he's making all this noise. He's having fun. He's feeling the good flows. He knows the SDHOs are going on. I've realized that we've covered, and I kind of talked about this in the last one, is that we do sound design, and when we do sound design, we're mostly, doing sound design synthesis in these synthesizers like operator, analog, wavetable, the biggies. And of course you also got drift, a little bit newer. You got the physical modeling ones like the tension, the collision, and probably more if you're on Ableton Live 12, which I do have. I finally have started using my new laptop, my new MacBook laptop, and I actually installed Ableton Live 12, but not just 12, 12.3, which was kind of like the big update over the last month or two, which brings the first AI feature, which is to separate the stems of one of your songs. So if there's any song, one of yours or something that just a piece of audio, it will separate the stems from it by running an AI analysis. But it doesn't separate all the stems. It only does 4 categories. One of them is vocals. One of them, and it explicitly says this, so it doesn't choose from a hierarchy of different things. It's just vocals, drums, because of course you would want to isolate the vocals and the drums, then isolate the bass, and then the 4th category, there's only 4, and if I'm getting this wrong, I don't think I am, but I haven't really played around with it, even though I've seen people use it. The 4th category is everything else, right? So if there's a main lead melody, you would think there would be 5. You would think it would sort of be if I understand vocals, even though vocals isn't going to be everywhere, you want that vocal isolated. Sometimes you'll use this literally just to get the vocal isolated. But anyways, so yeah, looking forward to getting into that. But I'm still in Ableton Live 11. I haven't set my new laptop up to do my recording rig. So we're on here now, and hopefully that's all right. So we're going to do some sound design and move into audio effects. Right now we're in the audio effects folder. You got all these in their groups. Maybe yours is like this. If you uncheck group and folder, they're all here. But I'm going to leave them back here. Something I normally don't do. I did not like this. I think it did these. Well, he finished. He finished his Humpy Betty. But he's having fun, he's enjoying life. We're getting through the polar Arctic breeze over here in the greater Chicagoland area. We're doing good. Drive and color. Now, we covered this last time, and we're going to do a lot more than just this, and we're going to be doing some sound design and operator and some other synths. But I've realized two things. Is when you think about sound design in a modern DAW like Ableton, DAW, digital audio workstation, it's almost like you can think of it being broken apart into 2 big parts. One of which is sound design in whatever synthesizer you're using. So if you're an Ableton, you might use operator, which is known as the FM synth, although you can do subtractive synthesis in it. Ableton's analog, wavetables, and it's the wavetable synth. And then after you get the sound from that synthesizer, maybe you're using a third-party synth or something, which I'm sure you guys all know, but that just means it's like a synth that doesn't originate in Ableton. It's something you bought, and then you go to this plugins folder, and that's where you have your plugins. I don't have many because I wanted to make sure I had Suite so I could do everything all in-house. Wanted to make sure that was possible. After you dial in your sound with whatever synth you're going to use, then you've got all these audio effects. And if you remember, we went into this last time, but I realized I need to dive a little bit deeper. So, boy, I don't know how we can do this without our good old friend Spectrum, but because we're sticking to these folders, because I want to play a lot in Drive and Color, where would Spectrum? It's got to be in Utilities, right? Because it's a utility. Okay, Spectrum. Because it's good to visualize it. So we're an operator today. I just want something simple. I just want to get a bread and butter synth sound before we move on to different audio effects to make it sound very good. And sort of the epiphanies I've had along the way, which started in the last SDHO. What do I gotta say? Well, I gotta say a lot. Okay, so operator. I figured I'd choose operator because I want something simple. I was gonna use analog, but I feel like most people have probably used operator more than analog. In operator, I'm not even going to use any of the FM capabilities, which means I'm going to turn these off, although you don't have to use them exclusively for FM modulation capabilities. And if you didn't understand what I said there, don't worry. And I want to talk about sound design in a way that is equally beneficial if you're advanced, intermediate, or beginner. That's kind of like what I'm tasking myself with. So we're going to start with just a sine wave. And I'm going to go to transpose and transpose it down. You could just play an octave lower if you want to follow along, but because I'm on my laptop keys, that's why I'm going to transpose it down. So there it is. A sine wave, which down here with the waveforms. This is the oscillator section. Every single waveform that you would ever use is basically at its most fundamental a sine wave, because you're always going to have the fundamental pitch. This is the fundamental pitch, and with sine wave, all you get is the fundamental pitch. And then you can usually choose between a saw wave, and these are just the amount of harmonics, or a square wave. I like the sign of square wave, so we're going to go with square waves. Look at all those harmonics. See this guy? See the main one, the fundamental right here? It's the same as if we went back to sine wave. So every single thing you'll be doing, just think about it as like sine wave. And what are we going to do? Well, it's too bright, okay? So we're going to, on this low-pass filter, the one you would use all the time, attenuate, which means lower the higher harmonics. Just lowering the master volume. By the way, are you signing up for any sessions? Would you be into that with me? We can do that. I can see what's going on your Ableton screen, and I can hear what's going on, and we can work on your tracks or work on anything. And anyone who is a student of mine gets a free astrology reading if you're into that sort of thing. I'm an amateur astrologer, so I've never read anyone's book or birth chart besides analyzing mine for the last 3 years. And then, astrology isn't reading people's birth charts, but it's knowing the astrology of today, the astrology of what changes in a month, which changes in a year, 2 years, the astrology of the day, because all those planets are somewhere in the zodiac right now today. So if you were born today or you had a baby today, that baby would have the exact astrology of today because it was born today. You know what I'm saying, mate? Okay, so we've got this filtered square wave. You're going to have like the waveform, and you might do things to the waveform, and then it gets passed into a filter, so there'll be like a filter section. You could turn it off if you wanted to turn it off, and then you would have some sort of like volume or amp section, and that's how you hear it. If you didn't have it, you wouldn't have anything. So this oscillator section is the same as the volume section. So look, if I turn this down, watch it go lower. And look at that nice sound. That's volume automation. We're going to leave it up. Got our envelope here. But we're going to leave it up because I want full sustain, full volume. Now I've got my filter. And the way that I approach it is right now it's letting everything through because it's this low pass. But I'm going to lower it and cut out all of the higher harmonics, not getting rid of them, just lowering them for the time being. And then we get the filter envelope involved until it sounds pleasing to me. Too much. Sounds good. So now why would you want to use this filter envelope? Well, to give it some punch. So now we're going to say, put this filter envelope all the way up like this and then swoop it down, as I'm sure you know. And nothing changes because the filter envelope is not hardwired. You have to give it an amount down here. So right now it's at 50%. It's not at 100%. It's at 50%, so it sounds like this. So what it means is if it was 100%, it would treat it as if this filter frequency was all the way up and then swoop down to our amount, okay? Over a 276 second or a third of a second decay. We could make this more up. That's a little bit too intense. I'd rather it maybe open up to here and then swoop down. So that's why I'll make it, oh, not the peak, envelope. They really should make this a different color. Sounds natural, leave it in. Play with the release as well. Sounds better. Okay, got it. Here's where we come into things. That sounds fine. It sounds kind of like square wave with filter modulation on it, as you would in a lot of these synthesizers. But it sounds kind of, dare I say, boring. You could almost say, in a way, we're done with the synthesizer part. Now, true, we could go into the operator B and give some FM. So instead of this, and we could do things with FM. And we will maybe later if we want. That's what's good about operator. We can do that if we want. But that's not what we're trying to do right now. You just got one oscillator with a square wave through a filter. We chose a very bright square wave with a lot of harmonics. So we could have as much building block, as much clay, as much marble to start with. And then we use the filter frequency, the filter to start chipping away and start molding the clay and the block. Why do we bring it down to 500 hertz from all the way up? Because I don't want to hear all those high harmonics. It hurts my ears. But they're still there. It didn't go away. But then we get to use a filter envelope to give it some punch, to give some punch back. Ready? Listen. Take the envelope away. Put the envelope back. So we've got our sound. Let's back some of the things off. I like to kind of, this moves both the decay and the sustain at the same time. And another thing, you can always like transpose it down or up. I think I can get some like reverb on that, but I like playing more in the bass range because you get to hear more of like the true full body of the sound. And so when I do these things, I would normally come into here and do like a filter drive to give it like filter drive bump resonance. And all these sound slightly different. Listen. Maybe we should go to clean first. It'll sound different depending on what you're feeding it into. And so what that does is it takes all these harmonics. Notice how they go high in the higher end and then fall sharply down with the other ones staying. That's because of the filter enveloping. And it boosts those harmonics. It doesn't just simply boost them, because boosting them just makes them louder, but it adds more, drive and color. And so I thought, why play with these? Which I've played with them forever. You know, I've been doing this for like 13 or 14 years now. And I was like, well, let's just do it all in here, you know, because Ableton added it to all the filter sections. But then I realized these were so interesting, like dynamic tube. It's more subtle without. Almost sounded worse with. You can choose between B, C. Give it more drive. Sounds better with B. Turn it off. With. But of course there's other ones to use too. And my reasoning is that these other ones will give character that you're not going to just get with this. So if you took my approach and you're like, okay, well, like whatever, like I have my sound dialed in the way that I want it to be dialed in, and I'm going to give one of these filter drives to give some nice pleasing saturation, distortion, and I can control it, you know, with the filter drive amount or whatever. Well, you'll see is that a lot of these will give very unique driven sounds that basically take a very boring steak or an average steak and take it to the next level. And then you can pass that on to a lot of the other effects. So it's something that you want to play around with. And one of the best ones is an amplifier one. So, and by the way, you would need to have Sweet to have a lot of these. But like here, listen to it without, and then watch me play with these. Look how punchy and nice it is. I'm going to be using amps so much now. Now it's kind of intense, so what would you do? I don't know, turn the gain down? Dry wet. You can fit them to sound good. Like I totally dialed in good for the rock one. Yeah, I really think amp is a very underrated one. And normally you would use it with this cabinet one. So now you've got like the amplifier and then you've got the cabinet stack. But whenever you add the cabinet stack, it goes from sounding very like, to like kind of subdued. Or at least that's what I thought. Just another way to shape your sound. I would probably go to dual for like, I'm not mono. Because normally, like if you think like of like a guitar amplifier stack, you've got like the amp sitting on a head, like you know, like a Marshall stack, you know, and then you got like the cabinet. But that's only if you want to do that. But that's what the cabinet one is there for. Normally you would use them together. I don't think you would like use cabinet on its own. But it's all about like shaping your sound, and that's what sound design is at the end of the day, isn't it? Saturator is a great one. Because it's very, you want to add this drive amount. It's very subtle, and it gives you like just as much as you would need. This soft clip button is very good because it doesn't let it like clip, but it allows you to push it harder into the clipping. Sometimes I've noticed it does some things that I don't like, so just play with it on and off. But it's one that you wouldn't want to just like bypass. And you've got these different modes. So like this one, ouch. So you might want to adjust it. So saturator's great. Pedal's supposed to be like, well, a guitar pedal if you're sensing a theme here. So like you're not going to get that sound from like these guys. And then you can go in and get like a chorus. Turn the dry wet down, all the way down so there's no chorus, and hear how it changes. The rate's a big one. I like it low, right? I kind of want more release on the sound, so I'll go back into the volume properties and get more release. You might want to go into the master volume tab instead of having 6 voices being able to play at once. Because we're doing bass, it's probably better to have it in mono, so now listen. And anytime you're going to have the ability to go in wherever it is in the synth and activate like a glide, so you can have like a thing like this. Takes away a lot of the punch if you played like 2 different types of notes, because it tries to glide into them, so you're not going to get the punch of the first one. Where's my punch? Overdrive's a pretty intense one. Even though overdrive on a guitar pedal usually isn't, but whatever, you gotta take what you're given. That's like filtering. Redux is pretty crazy. There's a lot of them. Drum bus is really good for like drums. But whatever gives you the sound you want, that's all that matters. So you want to play with these. Think about it as like you get your sound, you kind of get like a block of clay, and then you take that and you make it like extra special and interesting with the driving color. You add more to it, you know, and then you then start adding these other ones. So pitch and modulation, you know, are great ones. Chorus, and you got some other features like the ensemble, phaser, flanger. Phaser's great. Flanger's good a little bit. Shifter, that's like a frequency shifter. It's kind of intense. You'll want to maybe add some of those things. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not feeling like doing any more Ableton right now. I kind of did, and then I realized I'm doing too much talking. I think I need to figure out like a new way to like, I don't know, I'm trying to figure out like how to best like teach these things, and constantly talking suits me because I'm a Gemini, but like I'm also changing, and so like talking so fast while I'm doing these things, I almost feels like not resonating with me, or maybe not today because we're different every day, aren't we? But I want you to play around with those distortion devices, because after you do your sound design and whatever synthesizer you're using, whether you're using like an Ableton Live native device or your own like third-party plugin that you downloaded or that you bought or whatever. And normally this will be a feature inside of the synth, like I was showing you in the filter section, is that you can add the harmonics to it through like some sort of like a drive, like a saturation, a distortion plugin, which is normally going to probably come within a synthesizer, because a lot of these like software synthesizers, also known as soft synths, as I'm sure you know, like they want to give you the ability to make it all sound good in-house, you know, so they might have like an inbuilt like chorus or modulation section, maybe there's like a phaser or something like that, maybe like an inbuilt reverb, so like you could do it all in shop, all in-house. You know, what I think is that you would really want to get a good grip on all the ways you could control that spot. So maybe you're like, okay, listen, like, you know, the three main synths in Ableton, analog, operator, wavetable, I've got those all down pat now, but now I want to start taking those out, the output of those sounds, and running them through audio effects. Well, I can't imagine a reason why you wouldn't want to have a little bit of drive and color to it, you know, before then passing it through like a chorus sort of phaser and then maybe a reverb or something like that. And there's really not much you have to do after that. And so maybe perhaps, you know, if you haven't really looked around, because I mean, how many times, if you've watched a lot of these, how many times do I go and start throwing down different distortion and saturation audio effects that Ableton gives? I really don't do that very often, because I just do it with those inbuilt filter drives, but they're very basic. And as we saw, especially with like amp and the different things you could choose in saturator and pedal, like it gives you so much uniqueness that you can then add and enhance your sound with before then putting into other audio effects if you deem it necessary. You really don't have to use anything else. I would think at that point, a little bit of chorus, maybe a little bit of phaser or flanger, even if you can barely hear just a little bit to give it that a little bit of width and movement to some of the mids and highs, and then passing that into a reverb to give it like a 3D depth, you know, acoustic space to it, maybe the tiniest bit of delay just before the reverb. You know, it just takes a good sounding sound that you carefully crafted within whatever synth you're using, and then like you're just dressing it up, you're getting it ready for display, you're getting it ready for game time, you know, like whatever. So I know that I kind of talked a little bit about this on the last one, and I thought I would have more focus to, but I'm like, I don't know. I'm just glad I came on and talked, hung out. Let me know in the comments what you would like me to go over, whatever you would like to see, you know, reach out, because I'll cover it, you know. I don't get a lot of feedback, so if there's things that you would like to see covered, reach out. I do anticipate that we'll be getting into Live 12 a lot. There's so many features. It's been enhanced so much, especially with like the MIDI generation tools. But in any event, hope you all been well. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Play around with those, and then play around with like throwing that into that signal flow from the synth to the distortion, saturation one into like a chorus or a phaser, and then maybe throwing that into a reverb, playing around with that, and seeing how that enhances your sound. So you're really going through the whole concept, because to just like, you know, boil down like the sound design process into just what you would do in the synth is only like one half of the story. Like it can change and be so different when you move it through all of these different audio effects, you know, so it would be silly not to. And yes, I know this might seem like it's so much to do, but if you're really interested in having control of your sounds from like the ground up, you would totally just want to know about that and do that. And with AI and everything doing everything for you, it makes knowing about this stuff completely unnecessary. But that's not why we do it. We do it because we want to build all this stuff from the ground up. We want to be like, listen, when you hear any piece of my music, every aspect of it is me from the ground up. Everything carefully chosen. Nothing is there that doesn't need to be there. I was in control of everything from the ground up. Oh, and by the way, the art that you see, none of that is AI. That's just me. My hands into everything from the ground up. So when you see something, you listen to it, you watch it, it's some sort of multimedia piece of art that I make, that you make, You have the ability to be in control of every aspect, where someone else who's just telling AI to generate like music or images, it's never going to be able to completely be the exact output of that person. You know, that person could tell AI, oh, make it sound more like this, or maybe make that image look more like that, or add this. But like, it's never, that person's never going to have complete from the ground up specificity over their final output. Maybe that doesn't matter to them, but I think to the artist, you would maybe want to do these things. And if you're watching, it's because you care and enjoy, you know, Ableton, sound design. Hope you've all been well. I got to get going. I hope you all been well. We'll talk care. Take care. We'll talk soon. Great, love all these wires and cords everywhere. That's bound to happen. Well, you did a lot of humping and pumping, Chunky. You're probably very tired. That's a good Chunky. That's a good Chunky. That's a good Chunky. What's going on, Chunky? Oh, you want to show us a downward dog stretch? Good job, Chunky. You're doing yoga. Okay, come on. Oh, you want some food, Chunky? Like always. You always need to get some foodie. Chunky, give me some paw. Oh, thanks, Chunky. That's a good Chunky. He's good. That's a good boy, Chunky.